To start off a little bit, do you want to tell me about your family and um, yeah, how it
Sure.
came to be?
Yeah. So my husband and I have been married for almost 9 years now. And about 2.5 years ago now, we brought our daughter home, from foster care. We went through the public adoption program in our state. And so she came to us at 13 years old, and she's turning 16 in April. So it's been a roller coaster of a couple of years. So, yeah.
Yeah, we adopted both of our kids from foster care also, and our daughter was 13 and our son was 10. So,
Okay, gotcha.
and talk to me a little bit about how you came to learn about developmental trauma, reactive attachment disorder.
Yeah, so I work in mental health. I'm a family and parent, I guess, mentor, psychoeducator, fancy word for coach, essentially. And so I am, and I also schooling wise, have a master's in psychology. So I have a fairly good background in trauma, trauma-informed care. And then I became a trust-based relational intervention practitioner as well.
Mhm.
So I felt like I had a very good handle on understanding trauma prior to adoption. And I knew about reactive attachment disorder, and I knew I had worked with a couple of families that had children with RAD. And I had known sort of going into adoption that RAD was something that I wasn't super comfortable with. And our daughter at that time did not have that diagnosis. And so we didn't really have that concern.
Mhm.
But I just knew from, I mean, there's obviously the horror stories that you see about RAD, but then I also just sort of knew that as somebody who's very connection and relationship oriented, and just very nurturing, I guess, as sort of like my personality, that that would be a really difficult disorder, to kind of weather as a parent.
Okay. So, what were your daughter's diagnoses, and then how did things kind of progress?
Yeah, she came to us with an ADHD diagnosis and I think anxiety, like generalized anxiety. She had sort of gone on and off from different providers with a PTSD diagnosis, which I think we're all kind of par for the course for a child from foster
Very
care.
true.
And when she first moved in, it was kind of at the start of summer, and my husband and I had adjusted our work schedules to kind of do the cocooning that they recommend when a child first comes in. And so we had lots of family activities and like little connecting trips and things like that. And felt really positive about our relationship with our daughter. She was very sweet and loving and never called us mom or dad really, but was more affectionate. She would like if I would sit on the couch with her, she would like cuddle with me or something like that. And then I would say maybe once school started, about 3 or 4 months in to her living with us, we started noticing just more, I guess, oppositional behaviors and more, I guess, what we now know as like family searching. She does a lot of. So if there's other adults, she'll go with them and completely ignore us. And all the while, like, we knew going into it, she had issues with technology and safety and boundaries there. That presented itself pretty early, but then continued to kind of escalate, lying, stealing, but really only my things, or things that were important to me. And then there would be kind of these periods where, out of the blue, she would have just this very harsh coldness kind of towards me, and we couldn't really figure out why that was or what had happened. Like, we worked really hard to have a lot of repair and accountability in the household and stuff like that. Like everything they tell you to do, we were doing. And she absolutely hated TBRI. She thought it was like too childish and didn't like the praise and positive attention. Um, And then I'm trying to think how it all ended up like changing. I think maybe right before, sort of right around her finalization, which was about 6 months into her living with us, I had kind of started pondering, like, I wonder if this is rad because her behavior with other people is different and it's very different with us. And the more that I kind of looked at it, the more that I was like, that really seems to fit kind of what we're seeing. And so we had tried to get her like treatment team on board with the diagnosis, and they were not. Her prescriber and psychiatrist had kind of said that because we didn't have her prior to 5 years old, we can't really say exactly what she experienced, and therefore she wouldn't meet the criteria for the DSM. And I kind of fought against that and said, well, we know enough of what happened based off of the paperwork and things that we have. Um, and just a very, I guess, invalidating experience overall from her treatment team. And I think maybe then in the spring, I think in the spring we had reached out to RAD Advocates and then got the information for Forrest Lean and went through him to get the diagnosis and finally kind of felt validated on that end that what we were seeing was accurate and that we weren't just trying to label things or that we weren't trying hard enough or something like that. So that's kind of been the diagnosis experience, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And how's she doing now?
Uh, it depends on the day, really. So she's still with the same treatment team. I mean, at this point, we kind of use them almost as respite. So she has a mentor that goes out into the community with her. There's not a lot of goal setting or skill building happening, but it's a good break, for us at home. And our therapist is doing, trauma narrative with her, which I now know is not the most effective form of therapy for RAD, but at this point we're almost done, so we might as well kind of continue. We're definitely trying to look into different treatment options, but she's also at an age where she's adamantly opposed to new providers and treatments and things. And so lately, I would say there's been a lot more discussions of she's not feeling great being in the home, but doesn't want to leave because that would mean that she'd leave friendships and school and those sort of parental relationships that she's made with teachers at school and things like that. So we're sort of in a holding pattern, I guess. We're hoping we can kind of keep things as stable as possible till 18 when she can be independent. We went through the Empowered Parenting series with Misty and Heather, and so we've been using that program at home for the last 4 or 5 months, I want to say. And I mean, it's been a bumpy start with it, but it's been really helpful in terms of having documentation and being able to kind of see the behaviors just overall and kind of be able to track them. And it gives us good information when talking with her team about specific things to address or work on, that we kind of have that with us. Although I will say it's been pretty dramatic with her team and the plan, and them not really supporting it either. And so I think it's kind of one of those quintessential RAD cases where the RAD child has their team and other adults kind of completely on their side and following whatever they say, and parents kind of on the outs. So navigating that, I think, has probably been one of the harder pieces too, as well.
Agree. Yeah. And how did this experience shape your desire to advocate for families and help other families going through this?
I mean, it's been, I think, going through it prior to RAD Advocates, I think the word that kept coming up was just how isolating it was and how, I mean, you kind of just second guess yourself almost every day of like, they have a good day and you're like, well, do they actually have RAD? Is that right? Am I crazy? And then the next day something happens and you're like, oh no, I'm not at all. Like everything makes sense. And so I think seeing that desire or struggle, I guess, in our own experience for community then made me, if I was able to kind of be in a similar position. And since I was already working with families professionally with mental health diagnoses and kind of helping them with parenting kids with pretty significant mental health needs, it sort of felt like a natural step to kind of focus more on RAD because since living with it, I've now kind of become my own expert in it. And it's just such a underserved group of families. And I think the most powerful thing is just being able to say that I do get it because I have been there or am there currently. And something I tell others is just like, if it's the one place where you never have to explain yourself or defend yourself or anything like that because we all just understand. And so that has been just very powerful being able to be that person for somebody else, but then also, I guess, healing in itself, to be working with others in similar situations and kind of um, seeing them grow or just sort of using the struggle as a way to help others has made it feel purposeful and meaningful.
Absolutely. And what do you wish you had as you were navigating this experience back in the day?
Ooh, I mean, I think I wish that we had known that she had a RAD diagnosis going into it. I think it could have been possible to get one, but circumstances just prevented that. She had a previous foster home that was pretty strict, and so it was hard for anybody to take what they were saying pretty seriously about things. And the foster family didn't have a lot of openness with us through our adoption process. Um, so I think, I mean, wave a magic wand, yes, knowing ahead of time, that probably would have changed a lot. I think too, when we were starting to suspect RAD, that just having a treatment team that both understood RAD and believed our perspective and what we were seeing at home, um, and also worked with our daughter because it's the way the program works that she's in is it's very client-centered as a wraparound team, and so they all wrap around her rather than wrap around us as a whole family unit. So I think, yeah, having a better treatment team, which I mean we're working on right now, on as well.
Yeah, that was our experience with wraparound also. What drew you to RAD Advocates and how was that experience?
So I mean, when I was, I think, first Googling everything I could about RAD, RAD advocates came up pretty consistently. And it took me a little while to sort of, I guess, reach out to RAD advocates, because I kind of felt like, well, our case isn't as severe, I think, as some of the other nightmarish stories that we hear because our daughter isn't at this point physically violent. And so I was like, it's not bad enough to reach out. And then I think as sort of the psychological warfare component kind of increased, and then just a lot of her behaviors as a teenager became much more um, dangerous, I guess, to her overall life. I think it felt like, well, at the very least, they'll understand the disorder, even if it isn't as severe as maybe some of the other ones. And so we were paired with Jan, and I've been meeting with her about monthly since, and it's just been nice to have check-ins and be able to talk to somebody who just gets it. And then kind of after, I want to say after several months of working with Jan and sort of reaching a point where, I mean, now I sort of see her more as a friend, and a coworker. But reaching a point of like, you know what? I feel like I have something to offer as well. And I'd kind of reached out to see if there were openings or if there was a way to volunteer. And I'm glad that there has been. So kind of still gathering families, I guess, to work with, and in the beginning stages of that, but have been just very rewarding thus far.
Awesome. And what do you think of the different approach RAD Advocate takes in terms of, having lived experience, family first model versus traditional teams like we've talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I think because so much doesn't work, or I guess so much of conventional mental health doesn't work for RAD, I think that you have to approach it in a different way. And so it makes sense and I think is the most healing approach to be working with like caregivers first because and it's something I guess that I also echo in my own work of you can work with just caregivers and not kids at all and having them improve and learn skills and feel supported results in great success, even if the kid isn't receiving anything directly in terms of services. And so it kind of felt like a no-brainer to me to be supporting parents, and caregivers. But then I think it also felt like that's where the focus needed to be because as a caregiver, I think it was always just like, well, why won't anyone listen to me? Why won't anybody hear me and what's going on? Because my daughter's never going to be honest about what's going on, either. So, yeah.
All right. And so, as an advocate, how do you hope to support families in this new role with RAD Advocates?
Um, I mean, I think I hope to be somebody that they feel safe with, kind of first and foremost, that is able to kind of keep this space of understanding and validation kind of first and foremost that they're not crazy and that they're doing everything that they can and that it is just a horrific disorder. And I think kind of keeping myself kind of grounded in that. And then I'm also a person who really likes being able to find resources, likes connecting people with different things. And so for me, that part really comes naturally of, have you thought about this idea? Or should we talk about the pros and cons of this decision? Or just kind of being able to be a sounding board is really, I think, something I'm excited about being able to do, especially given that that was something that I felt like we were lacking until we came to RAD Advocates of like, is this the right decision? Is this the right decision? And nobody had an experience to tell us otherwise. And so I'm hoping that what we didn't have, I can be for others.
And I know you're new to this role, but any early insights or reflections so far?
I mean, I think that there's more tying rad like caregivers and families together than there is like apart. And so there's families that have such severe and intense cases, and then there's families that may not, but the foundational kind of behaviors and feelings and experiences are very similar. And I think it kind of just goes to show how impactful the disorder is on everybody in the home. And I think too, I've been astounded by a lot of the resilience that I see in families and how strong they are given what they're going through. And I think just a greater empathy and kind of passion for working with families and parents too, both kind of in my professional job, but then also just with RAD advocates too.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something I've seen in doing these interviews is the stories are so similar, those base, like you
Hmm.
said, feelings and experiences that for the people who say RAD doesn't exist, it's kind of telling to see how many similarities there are. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, those were kind of my main questions. Is there anything else you want to add on this subject?
Um, hmm. I can't really think of a whole lot.
What would
Mm,
your message be to parents like yourself? And I was the same way, who were kind of hesitant to reach out. Maybe we don't need to reach out to RAD advocates. Maybe we do. Like, what would you say to families?
I mean, I think I would say like it's never gonna hurt to reach out, and I think like I know a lot of families will do like an intro call and then kind of wait a while and then come back again. Because I mean just the intro call itself was really validating. I think like it was the first time that I was able to explain to somebody what was going on, and they were like, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that, and rad makes sense. Or I have a daughter that has that experience too, or I dealt with that too. And so I think it was finally sort of this, I guess just this light at the end of the tunnel of like somebody else understands and gets it. And so for that alone, I think it's worthwhile to reach out, even if you feel like it's not severe enough, its impact can be really severe. I mean, over the course of the last 2.5 years, I've developed my own health issues or have discovered health issues, I guess, as a result of parenting RAD, and have had to do a lot of my own personal work as well. And so I think it's not necessarily the severity so much as just parenting RAD in general. And everybody, I think, could use support with that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for volunteering and lending your expertise. And
Of course.
yeah.